Hey there, I'm Ethan. I go by Lord Ethan. I'm a peak GM4 support player turned into a hard-stuck diamond hitscan OTP, and I serve as the head coach for U Buffalo Esports Overwatch. I've been working with their varsity team since spring of 2021. My focus is on fundamentals, principles, and standardized rules that help make the game a little easier to play and understand. It's been a long while, and I'm happy to return to coaching Overwatch more openly. I'm looking forward to sharing my ideas, and I'm so beyond thankful to all of those who are willing to watch, engage, and resonate with, and maybe even contend against some of my viewpoints. With all of that said, let's get into it. Tonight, I would say tonight, but it's actually this morning. We are going to be taking an examination of some Emre gameplay. I've actually been pretty excited to take a look at this. Now, I am really excited to watch some of the higher level competitors across the ladder. But I do really love spending time in the trenches with the metal rank players, and really helping to establish a really healthy understanding of exactly why some of the principles of Overwatch are so incredibly crucial. Because these are the kinds of things that will help get you out of the dregs of goodness. I'm trying to find out what the rank here is. I'm sorry. Out of the dregs of silver and into even the upper echelons of diamond masters, because really it's really just about kind of the rules of the game, up until you hit the point where you're playing with some really freaky people who are really talented. We're gonna be taking a look at LiGarald. This is I also go by Toasted Marshmallow. And this is a silver game on Emre. I've played Overwatch or they mentioned, I've played Overwatch for like 600 hours maybe. Half of it was spent on playing casually when it first released. Assume that I don't really know a lot about the game. Would like some input on what I should do and what and how I can improve. Looking forward to the feedback and to improving. Thanks. They also mentioned I'm not a good FPS player at all. Peaked plat in League of Legends, but that's the highest I've gotten on any competitive ladder. So it's possible that there's a little bit of competitive ambition, maybe spurred on a little bit by the competitive rewards that look very enticing. Although I know the Talon logo is a little bit tacky on those Crimson gun skins, but it would be cool to have some shiny guns and also a nice shiny rank, and just to improve the game and see where you can go. Since this is silver, again, it's really important to me that we examine the rules of Overwatch, the core principles, but also we can tackle some of these little interactions that exist between some of these characters, some of the rules that exist for each hero, depending on like who they're up against, who they're playing with, so on and so forth. So before jumping right into the game, I do want to mention I have been playing basically nothing but Emre on the latest patch. It has been an absolute blast. I still only have about 12 hours on him, but I found him so beyond enjoyable, and I just like that he feels like Halo, Call of Duty, shoots gun. Nothing rule breaking, nothing bending about the game and how it's played. Just good old fashioned point, click, and get picks for it. So, Emery's been fun, but he does have a couple of quirks. He does have a couple of perks, and maybe we'll have the opportunity to get into that. I want to mention right off the bat, and it's worth taking a look at the other material that I've reviewed, because I go into extensive detail about why some of these choices are really superior. Just play high ground, right? Playing high ground is really advantageous. You actually get a really nice profile, a nice angle onto these guys. Not to mention the information about like where they're at, right? Who all is here, right? You've got the Soldier and the Cast, the Mizuki, and the Juno all in front of you, right? And so if you just path high ground, right, it's better for cover. You get nice angles. You can get info a little bit earlier on, right? And so not to mention the fact that it seems as if you'll be able to avoid the ire of this Sombra. You're a little out in the open as well. My other rule is closer to walls, corners, covers. I'm going to say that a lot here tonight. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're always close to where your natural cover is, okay? I like the spam. I didn't notice that you threw out a nade. Let's see where it went here. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Did he block that? Because you want to try and lob that stuff off of walls here. Oh yeah, so he blocked the nade cast. and that's a-okay. You also have some like nice angles. You could go for a lob like on the underside of this rock, and it would explode above them. You could always go for like a long ricochet off of this sign, or a bounce off of here as well. So you don't necessarily have to throw it at them. It detonates shortly after bouncing, unless you get the sticky grenade perk, and so. So you want to practice a couple lineups with that one as well, right? So that one that grenade ends up just being a little bit too far, right, on the cast here. So I'd look down a little bit more towards the ground, and then go for the nade cast. That way it's exploding right in Juno's face. So just a little bit more time learning the trajectory. Now this is really interesting, right? What I would see you do here is to get your scouting profile, right? You peek all the way out here, which is already kind of risky, right? The mega pack is gone, which I don't know if you've noticed before you take this angle. Okay, you do see it there. Actually, you're the one who picks it up, even though your regen, your self-regen was kicking in, right? So you actually probably, if this is a position that you're going to play, you kind of want to think ahead a little bit and consider, maybe I want to save this mega pack for when I have to either leave or like whatever, right? So, when you are here on this angle, right, you're unmarked, they don't know where you are, you have kind of you have the ability to surprise them here, right? This is where you actually don't have to move anymore right now, right? You can actually stand completely still and make sure that the next shots you fire are really safe, secure shots that land and hit your target, right? And instead what we end up is, not only are you now outside of walls, corners, and covers, you're in a position where all four of them are looking at you, right? When really you could have actually just stopped right here, thrown your nade, shot your gun, and then as soon as they start looking at you, just grab the mega pack and then leave, right? And look to take the high ground with a nade jump, right? Because you have to throw it at your feet, and then you have to jump, and then it launches you actually pretty high up into the air. It's a little bit finicky, but the tech is fun, and that's a really nice pick. So at least you're trading here. Oh my gosh, and you get out of this? That's crazy. I love that pistol. I love the pistol. I mean, it needs a nerf because of how much it can heal. 80% of damage done is kind of insane. And if you get that major perk that refunds heat and increases duration, it's pretty insane how long you can keep it out and how much health you can get from tanks in particular, especially the bruisey, brawly ones like Roadhog, Queen, or some of the larger sized ones like Orisa. So that's amazing that you live there. I actually think that you should have been hard punished. I think that you should have gone down like right as soon as you entered out here. Like I mentioned, you don't have to stop moving out here, right? You can do everything that you did and not even have to trade for it, which is the best possible outcome in a lobby that is willing to punish you a little bit harder. It's amazing that the Sigma comes out here. Careful with the nade casts. I think that they're all a little too samey for me. It's been a while since I've said that one, actually. Just that you're throwing all the nades with your crosshair at head height instead of looking for surfaces and floors to bounce them off of, so that they either traverse or so that they either travel different distances, end up in different spots, or have different angles here. So I also mentioned this a lot when it comes to Overwatch. You want to do all of the different things that your abilities can do. So with Emre in particular, he's got a lot of options. His nades not only help to secure kills, but they can also like help you get angles on targets that are like hiding behind certain points of cover. His pistol, as I've mentioned, does healing. It's also burst damage. It fires as fast as you can click it outside of its heat capacity and duration. And then on top of that, it gives you a little extra mobility. There are times when I whip out the pistol just to move faster, especially once I have that perk that lets him move faster with the pistol out when you're not firing, but also to get the height to get onto high ground. Because again, you should be on height. You should be on high ground. It's the best spot to play, like anywhere on the map. Now, you might not be able to hold high ground forever, but you definitely want to be on high ground. Your Yume Mizuki is looking to fight this Cassidy, right? And you should be helping him do that, right? Because it's better to do things as a team and to help each other. You don't need to be on the objective, because it's currently contested, and honestly, it's an obstruction. It decreases the visibility that you have over everything that you could have. Not to mention the fact that you don't have to play within this range. Sigma is advantageous in this matchup, right? He likes you being within distance of easy rocks, his easy accretion, and hyperspheres that he can bounce off of walls and floors into your face the same way that you want to bounce nades into theirs, right? You don't want to play in the same position as your team, because his hyperspheres do splash damage, explosive damage. So what that means is that anyone who takes hypersphere damage in this space is all taking the same damage, and that is a ton of ultimate charge for him, right? So you don't want to be on the same spot, because that also only gives you the same information that everyone else has. And in a game like Overwatch, knowledge is power, right? With the knowledge that high ground is uncontested only by one Cassidy, that you can push with your support, who heals, by the way, just by existing, right? So that makes it even kind of safe for you, and leads to not only to an advantage that you could establish, but also a position that you can play for the next part of the fight. Is all really nice to consider, right? But are you limiting the amount of information that you're working with here just because you are putting yourself right with the core of your team? That might be my question. So yeah, pull the pistol out and jump up on high ground, right? Puts you out of the sig line of sight, helps your Moira defeat a cast there, right? And be careful about that. Be careful about the walking forward to land abilities that you can land from range, right? I like playing in characters' effective ranges, right? With Cassidy, you can't play too far out. With Ashe, you don't really want to play too close, right? Or with Widow. Oh my goodness, I can't talk today. I've done too many of these. With Widow, you don't want to play too close, right? Although her SMG is kind of insane. Same deal with Emre. And in fact, with Emre, it's really, really nice because you can play at ranges and you just have to right click and scope in, and you compensate for the distance. So when you scope in with his gun, he actually does a little bit more damage at specific ranges. You don't have to scope in when you're really, really close to enemies, but you certainly don't have to walk this close to enemies to do their damage. This is, again, why I would have you a little further away, more on high ground, playing near walls, corners, and covers, and not on the objective, because this is where fights are going to happen a lot of the time in Overwatch. And you know who doesn't have the health to sustain on an objective that's going to be highly contested and like around which the fights are going to be concentrated? And if the fights are happening around the objective, where do you think a lot of the damage is going to go, right? It's probably going to go around and near the objective into your tank. So being stacked on top of the tank, remember, being stacked with our teammates actually helps us be liable to take the same instances of group AoE, splash, explosive damage, however you want to frame it, right? So especially when there's high ground position here, there's high ground position here. In fact, you don't even need to whip out the pistol to get up there. You can jump here, and then jump right up onto this ledge. Boom, high ground position, right? You can even cut off the Juno. Actually, you can see her from right here, and this is a really nice target to get, and this is really nice cover to play around, right? They also can't really do much from this side, right? They would actually have to go all the way up these stairs in order to match you, since all of them are on low ground here, right? So you have positional options, you have cooldown options, right? But really a lot of your options here are related to you playing spacing that is a little more suitable for your character. You can scope in with his gun, and that helps you play at ranges where Sojourn, Ashe, and Hanzo are more effective, right? And helps keep them competitive in that matchup, but you absolutely never have to walk forward to land abilities that you can land from range. That's a very important principle for characters like Emre, for characters like Ana, for everyone. It's important to play our effective ranges, right? Roadhogs want to play within 20 meters to land their hooks. Sigmas want to play within, I think it's what, 20 or 25, or maybe it's 15 to get the hyperspheres. No, it got increased a little while ago. And Sojourn can play whatever range she wants, because she doesn't have fall-off penalties to her weapon, although she does have weapon spread, so, you know, maybe she wants to keep her fire rate really nice and controlled, right? So we've all got little rules to play by, and that's what, you know, that's just something you got to build up with over time in a game like Overwatch. Be careful. Remember, we're stacking up on top of our team, so this is really, really bad. If I zoom out far enough, you guys are all literally on the same position, which means you should all be taking the same amount of damage. No one is taking a position on high ground. Remember, the other problem that I have with stacking is the fact that you don't have any information that is different from any of your teammates, right? So anything that our teammates don't see, you also don't see, and you really want to see anything that your teammates don't see, right? Like a Juno on the high ground, like a Cassidy wandering up here, like a Reaper TPing somewhere into your backlines, or a Sigma whose barrier is breaking, right? There's all kinds of information that you want to be picking up from the game, and it's giving you it for free. You just have to not stack on top of your teammates, and there are multiple advantages to playing not on your own, but just in a position that is safe and where you aren't stacked on top of your team, right? Where you can get new information, your own information, play by your own character's rules, stuff like that, right? You would be able to come up to high ground, right? Just path out out the door here, walk through this train, and you would be able to shoot the Juno, pressure her back. You would be able to walk all the way up here. There's no one here who could really contest you aside from the Juno, who would double jump, and anyone who would have to take this ramp. But if they're going to turn around and start taking this ramp, isn't it interesting that your team is pushing around this corner? So all you would need to do is make sure that you time your engage out this door at the same time where your team would be able to move and start moving main, right? That way your team is pushing them back further down this road, as opposed to your team existing around this corner and letting their team walk up this height to stop you, right? So as long as you're timing things reasonably well, and that's done just by watching your team. So it's a very important principle to just look around, make sure you know where everyone is in the lobby at all times, right? Be really careful here. You actually hear, I think, the wind up. Whenever you see Juno, like, flying around in the air and going beep, 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 that means that she's going for her right clickies on you. That's just a lot of damage, and it's really easy for you to take that kind of damage if, number one, you're stacked up on top of your team. I want you to see her POV here. And on top of that, if you're away from covers, so walls and corners. So remember, 1.5 meters is about as far as you should be away from a wall, like, at any point in time. I mean, isn't that meaty? Isn't that awesome? I mean, you get insane ultimate generation from that as well. Look at that. She went from 36 to 45. That's a whole 10% ult for one right click. So that's actually really, really nice. Yeah, I like the pistol being drawn there. Although, again, you really shouldn't be here anyways. You should be on high ground because it's a better position for characters who have guns. It's a better position in general. You don't want to be taking the same instances of damage. You actually could cross the distance here, right? Just because your team is existing here, right, and your shield is up, doesn't mean that this is where you have to stay. You actually could... Overwatch 2 boils down to 2 principles. I've already mentioned one, and that was timing, right? I mentioned timing your engage out here with at the same time when your team pushes here, and at the same time where their defenses can be weakened, right? Overwatch is just about establishing advantages and opposing disadvantages. But then the other key, the other core principle is map control, and actually a really nice demonstrable. A really nice demonstration of map control is health packs, right? Which your Sombra is actually running around hacking. So just because the shield goes up here doesn't mean that this is where you must now play. No, there's no rule in Emre's rule set, in your composition's rule set, or against this composition's rule set that says you can't keep swinging wide and quickly and decisively to take the next angle, the next section of the map you can control. Isn't this a nice angle for Emre? And isn't this a nice angle where you're not only safe, you're close to a health pack, which is your map control, right? If you're close to a health pack, that's more health that you have, longer TTK for them, shorter. If it's a good angle like this one, it's a shorter TTK for you, right? So that's what that looks like. That's what map control is like, this is a section of the map that I can control, right? Health packs help you do that, right? Now, this is a nice angle, right? But you also see what's literally like right in front of the Sojourn on this angle is the cart, right? So when I talk about the cart being an obstruction, that's kind of what I mean here, right? So that's a really nice pick, but you also see how you're just moving side to side out in the middle of the open. Get to where you have to go, right? The longer you spend here, the less time you'll be able to spend here, the less time you'll be able to spend up here, the less time you'll be able to spend back here, right? And the whole time this team is backing up, and you want to be ready for each phase of the fight, as I call it, where they're backing up further and further, right? So here, they're going to lose their Soj, and they're going to be backing up. Wouldn't it be nice to be here as they're backing up, and then pull out the pistol and fight the Juno up here? Well, after you start fighting the Juno, she's going to back up as well, and then that gives you this whole space, and they're going to continue backing up even more, right? Because their Juno got forced out, and now she has to use a cooldown. So you could even walk all the way back here, and as long as you're mindful of the timing, that it takes for their Sojourn to respawn and come back out here, you can even play over here for a few seconds and look for an additional pickoff or a nade bounce, right? So you've got options here. And even if you aren't going to walk all the way out here, even if you're not going to hold this position, right, you definitely don't want to be here for too long. I give people about 8 seconds. I give my players about 8 to 12 seconds to play in any one spot at any one phase of the fight. Because fight phases are controlled by cooldowns, rotations, ultimates, what you're looking at is windows where Overwatch happens in like about 8 to 12 seconds, right? And so you really want to make sure that you're changing your position when the fight is also changing. You don't want to be the one static element in a fight, because you won't be static for long. Well, you will be static, it's just going to be in spawn. You're still not pathing out to the high ground, which kind of unnerves me. You should definitely be looking to control high ground. Not only is the position like highly precious, it leads you generally to the next right thing to do. I say, you know, doing the right thing in Overwatch usually leads you to the next right thing to do, right? And this is really just a little bit too close. Again, a little too samey on the nades. I would be looking for ways to bounce them around. That's actually a nice little detonation there. I also, you know, with the nades, it's been really fascinating to explore whether or not, or like how I should be using them, when I should be using them for kills, when I should be using them for pressure, when I should be using them for damage. I can tell you, using the nades to break shields is a little bit iffy for me, unless I'm looking to like break panels of Domina's shield, which is a nice option that I've got against her. But really, I'm looking to like bounce nades off of targets that I've already hit once, right? Damage in Overwatch ramps up very quickly. From insignificant damage, that's the damage you don't have to worry about, to significant damage, that's the damage you do have to worry about, that will force you back to cover, or to find a health pack, or to find one of your supports, and lethal instances, which doesn't have to be explained. So if you apply an insignificant amount of damage, right, and then you let that one shot lead into another 3 shots, and then you nade, right? You've just ramped up that damage so significantly that you're going to force them to change the way that they're playing. You're going to force them to make a decision. And that's generally really good in Overwatch. You don't want Overwatch players to be able to follow through with the plans that they're making, right? So that's one of the other things about high ground, is it'll give you angles to find the pressure that you need to apply onto these targets that you'd rather apply it to than this Sigma and his barrier. Just a reminder not to shoot the Sigma grasp there whenever he holds up his arms and has the swirling vortex in his hand. It looks like you have a really good mind not to. He generates over health based on how much damage he's able to absorb there. So, Yep. Be really careful. So this is where, instead of moving forward, I'm looking to like whip out my pistol and take high ground. So I'm a big believer in, like, if you have it, use it, right? So you have that's with your ultimate in particular, but it also applies to cooldowns. Like, have you whipped out your pistol this entire fight? And if you haven't, then why not? It's kind of broken. You can do damage, you get movement speed, you get verticality, right? You can use it to jump onto a high ground where you're not going to take as much damage, where you can play out of range of the Sigma, where you can find a better angle onto a target that you would rather shoot more than just the tank, although it is important to shoot the tank, right? Sometimes I'll also use my pistol to just to like be able to take damage. It's kind of like with Maga, with his E. Sometimes you use it more to actually kind of resist the damage that you know is incoming. And so sometimes I'll actually use the pistol to keep myself above a certain threshold. Right, I'm not critical, so I'm not gonna, but I am gonna use the pistol to keep myself like from going critical. Right, or not from going critical, but from being as easy to go critical. So this is where, like, I would just back up. You haven't jumped to height, right? You are looking for this health back to respawn, but also this character has, I just learned about this the other day. This character has a passive that, like, his health regeneration is like faster and easier and better than most other characters. So you can also just walk away from the fight and just stop taking damage for a second. You don't have to be engaged in a fight where you are 45 HP, right? And if you are going to be engaged in a fight where you're 45 HP, then, like, just go trade, right? But it's clear that you don't want to be taking more damage, right? Here, you're trying to play a health pack, but then you're also playing where it's easy, where you're liable to take more damage, right? So be really careful about that, especially since those hyperspheres from Sigma here bounce off of the walls. Yeah, so he'll just ricochet them, as long as you're playing within his effective range. So this is, again, where I'm saying, like, get on high ground. Marvelous. This is exactly what we wanted to see. Yeah. Now that's where we just want to be really, really careful. This is where the using the pistol to get movement speed is really, really good. This is where I would whip around and shoot that Cassidy as soon as you start taking damage, and then I would also add a little bit of A and D movement into there. Mechanically speaking, that's a little more difficult to do. Even I don't like moving my direction whenever someone's shooting at me and I'm trying to dash for cover, right? But if you're trying to dash for cover, then use the pistol to give yourself a little extra movement speed, right? right? At the end of the day, more damage equals less pressure. If the cast is shooting you, you have to turn and shoot him back. Otherwise, he's not going to stop shooting you. And if he doesn't stop shooting you, you'll die eventually, right? That's exactly what we see here. So, not to mention the fact that both of you guys are playing within each other's effective range. So even though he has the up on you in the duel, you also have an nade charge, you have your pistol. Just turn and shoot him. Turn and fight. Fight your threats. And if you can't fight your threats, then bring your fights to your friends, right? Let them help you. You hear the Cassidy above you, which is marvelous. You walk back into high ground after walking just a little bit too far, which is perfect. Use the nade. Use the nade bounce there. You had him marked. Don't give up on that duel, and definitely don't give up on a half HP cast who is nade killable, especially when it means that your alternative, especially when your alternative is turning around to an objective where 3 people are about to all be looking at you because they've carved through the rest of your team, right? I would actually just push the cast. That's the easier pick. That's the guaranteed kill. That's the one that brings me away from a fight that is disadvantageous for me. It's the one that puts me back on high ground. It's the one that forces me to use my abilities because remember, if you have it, use it, right? You died with your pistol, and then you've died with a second nade charge, right? So, go after the easy stuff. Do the boring stuff. Oh God, don't try to be flashy right there, right? Don't take on the entire rest of their team in a scenario like that, especially when you have a cast who is killable that you've contributed damage on pressure onto and forced to recede into a position on the map that you could reasonably control, right? Alrighty. Be careful, you're a little bit wide here. I like the ult here. I want to know how long you've had this. Okay, so you just got it. Yeah, and I probably don't I probably don't let it rip here. And to be fair, both of your supports died, so the call is probably to die as quickly as possible, just so that you can reset with the rest of your team. You and your Domino managed to catch the same wave, which is really, really good. So yeah, you're looking to use your ult as soon as you possibly can, which I would say you probably pick the earliest window to use it, which I really like. I actually really like that. Nice connections. Be careful. Add variability to your flight pattern. You will get punished. You will get so punished. And it's so sad because the ult is really fun and I like being uncontested when I'm flying through the air, but like you are going to get really hard punished the higher up you climb, and you are going to climb even higher because you've definitely got some nice movesets. You just need to use them in the right positions. But make sure that you're tapping all of your movement keys in an order that is difficult for them to track, but that it doesn't mess up your own mechanical inputs here. You definitely don't want to fly in a straight line. You definitely want to go straight up or straight down, and you definitely want to be mindful of your threats. Again, if the Cassidy is shooting you, just shoot him back. He's not going to shoot you as much if you just turn and fire your gun at him, the one that deletes people, as like you deleted the Sojourn, right? So be mindful of where your damage is coming from so that you can be responsive to it. This is why scouting is really important. You see him, actually, even. You see him, the Juno, and the Sojourn. You fire off a couple of bullets into the Cassidy, who you see roll just out of line of sight. You kill the Sojourn here, but then you're looking at the core of their team. Instead of the one character by himself, without supports, in an exploitable position, on a section of the map that not only you can reasonably control, but also a section of the map that, like, eventually it would be really nice to control, right? So go after the cast. I don't know why you would want to pick to shoot a barrier and a support who is not only within range and healing and getting that's a Juno right click, by the way. That's tons of healing onto him. So a support that can get away, that can go in vuln, that has an ultimate that counters yours, even though I think he used it last fight, or he's close to building it here. So for tracking ult, we really want to be careful about how we're using our override protocol. Anyways, because his ult kind of deletes ours and forces us to play really, really risky, or to just wait things out. Hey Lego, what's going on, bud? But the other thing that you can do is just, but also, like, the supports are with each other behind their tank, right? So their tank's going to throw shield, their supports are going to heal each other, right? If you're thinking about the rules that they are going to be playing by, it is when the Emre goes for his ult, we're going to make sure that we carry each other and none of us die. But there's one target over here that is, like, totally not with the program and is actually your threat, right? So go dispatch your threat. I would do the selfish, easy stuff that makes the game easier for you to play, right? If that's killing the DPS who are good, who you consider are mechanically better than you, which, by the way, I'm not entirely sure that's the case, because I've seen you land some really nice shots. Again, I want to see you playing on high ground, because that's where your aim is really going to look best. Aim isn't about, like, how good my mouse movement is. It's about, am I playing the position, the right spot at the right time that makes the shot easy to land, right? Mechanics is all about making the shots easier to land, right? It's does my movement support my aim? Does my position? Anyways, so the I have you going for the selfish easy stuff, right? Because your mechanics aren't worse, and if the selfish easy stuff that makes the game easier for you to play is going and dispatching the DPS who you think are better than you, right, as opposed to trying to war of attrition the tanks and supports who have infinite resources to keep each other alive down, right? Then go do the easy stuff, do the boring stuff. This is too flashy for me. I like the energy behind it too. I really like the idea of you killing both of the supports, getting the one shot, finding the final blows onto the tank, which you actually do get some really nice damage here. So this is a really nice big moment, and it probably deserves to be or was play the game. Pull the pistol out, by the way. You have it. Use it. That is a cooldown. Aaron Keller gave you this ability for you to use in your highly competitive Overwatch games, right? Now, this might be bum low silver. It might feel to you on some days, but the fact is that this is the perfect arena to just use your abilities in whatever way you see fit so that you know how they work and don't work when you've reached the highest echelons of mid and high masters and are gunning for my seat on the competitive ladder, which you'll be viable for, right? Just as long as we see you playing on high ground and using your cooldowns, using your abilities. Go ahead and make mistakes. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to get flamed by your gold and silver teammates? How terrible, right? I like this off angle. I like where you are. I use my pistol, by the way. I use my pistol to jump onto the height so that I can jump onto this height so that I can, like, figure out an angle and land some cheeky nades and, like, jump on top of them. I also don't mind you, like, just running up to them, right? Be careful about that. So his ult just deletes projectiles. That's its whole gimmick. It deletes projectiles that go in. So you would have to walk into the ult in order to land damage from guns, grenades, stuff like that. It doesn't block like beams like Winston Tesla Cannon or Vendetta's ult or anything like that. So generally I do like all this though. You got to be wary of your threats, right? So you heard this Cassidy walking around. You also know or should know, right? 600 hours on Overwatch, right? You should have a nice idea of like how long respawn timers are, how long it takes to like walk to certain areas of the map or traverse certain distances in Overwatch if you're not playing a highly mobile character like Cassidy might be, right? So you just want to have a mind for like, okay, where are my enemies? In fact, I think the cast has even damaged you a little bit, right? So again, turn and shoot your threats, right? Or just drop off the height here, right? And be willing to yield it. Remember, like I said earlier, like go to high ground. You might not be able to hold it forever, right? Because you can drop it at any time, right? But it is a good position to play. So I really like seeing you get a little bit of value from this position. It's a little bit tough to see you forced out of it by Cassidy that you can absolutely roll in a duel, especially considering the fact that I think you still haven't used your pistol. Remember, it gives you mobility. It lets you jump higher. Although be careful about jumping because jumping is bad in Overwatch when you're doing it for no reason. But it helps you jump higher. Oh my God, look at that! It's so crisp. Yeah, nade him. You don't have to CS:GO gun battle it out. You aren't trying to swap weapons onto the next knife. You're not trying to prove anything to anybody, and especially not me. And like, oop, I lost my makeshift pop filter. You're not trying to prove it to anything. Not to your silver plate teammates. Not to me, and not to like the 50 people who are gonna watch this, right? So like use your abilities because they will help you win these duels, and you already had the advantages on Cass. If you already let me ask, if you already did this damage, right? You jumped him there. You actually jumped him. You found him wandering in a dark alley, and you told him, hand over the pennies in your pockets, because that's all he's got in this economy, by the way. You hand me over the pennies in your pockets, or you're gonna get what's coming to you. And he refused. So you showed him that you're freaking serious about this, right? You're serious about having those pennies, right? And now you have an advantage over him. You've shown off the knife. You've given him a light laceration, and you repeat yourself. Give me the pennies, my good sir. Does it sound like I have experience in this craft? I don't. I promise. I've never mugged anyone. But it looks like you're absolutely rolling this cast here. That's an advantage. His low health, your high health, your good position, your crisp aim, right? So if you've established an advantage, you want to continue establishing advantages. You don't want to just let them have advantages. And a nice advantage for him to start establishing is a 2-tap, because it's absolutely possible that he just looks right at you and taps your head 2 times. Silver, gold, plat, diamond, masters, all the way up to champion players, you just never know what they're going to pull out of their pockets. And especially concerning the fact, and this isn't bad, by the way, but you're standing virtually still to land these shots, which is great, by the way, to help you land these shots. And you don't have to move around if no one's shooting at you, right? But now you're gonna have to start moving, and it's possible that he just rolls you here, right? So use the ability. The ability gives you an absolute advantage. It helps you start charging your next ability. It helps you build the ult faster. It lets you not be forced to drop off a high ground. He does 105 damage, or he does what is this, 145 damage to you in the time that it takes you to bring him to what was it? He does 145 damage to you to your 50, right? So if you're just looking at the numbers there and the fact that you have grenade, gun, pistol, right? You should not be making that trade. And is that like really nitpicky of me? Yeah, 100%. Oh shoot, go grab the mega. You don't have to walk back out into the open at less than half HP. Although your regen has kicked in and your supports are right there, so whatever. But I cut myself off, but hopefully you get there. Oh yeah, is it really nitpicky? Like, yeah, 100%. But like, this is the little stuff that Overwatch is all about. And it is also what separates the highest rated teams from the other high rated teams. Good, good, good. No double nade spam. That's just, use it to confirm kills, get pressure. But you're not often going to get. I don't think you're going to get too much value off of double nades. I double nade every once in a while. Your crosshair placement is really nice, by the way. I like the fact that you don't jump for no reason, by the way. I really love that. I've been watching a lot of VODs lately where people are just jumping. They're just slamming their jump keys and jump buttons, and it doesn't make too much sense to me. Good, good. I do want it to be noted this is the first time you've pulled out your pistol since the time on first round, or first point that you pulled out your pistol. Really nice. Really, really nice. Rip the ult now. Rip the ult and play your cover. I also really dislike that we've dropped off the height and we've started moving around out in the open. Like, what was wrong about this position? What was wrong about killing the cast right here so that you could slink back into the shadows, or just use this natural cover to ult and force their Sigma to start deploying shield, using grasp, throwing a rock at you. Sojourn slides forward. Mercy goes for Valk because she's not going to be able to res the cast if she had it right. Whatever, right? But now instead you've made yourself like kind of a free picking for them. I want you to see yourself from their perspective. Like, he's got the easiest shots against you. She's got the easiest shots against you. If he were alive, he would have the easiest shots against you. She could literally whip out her pistol and start glocking you down. She could probably have you down to like 20 HP by the time you actually are able to get to this corner. And that's if you turn around and walk away, as opposed to continue to shoot them and walk backwards, which I imagine is what you're about to do. And not to mention the fact that you won't be able to shoot them if this guy throws his barrier up like right now, right? So don't drop off the high ground if you're not being forced off the high ground. It doesn't make any sense. It's like playing Ana, right? Don't walk forward to land our abilities that don't have ranged penalties, right? That's unfortunate, because that's a really good nade. That's really good nade. That's a really good nade. There's really good pressure there, right? And you have your ultimate, which, like, dying with your ultimate, you can't do. That alone, by the way, will push you into gold. Really, really nice. Yeah, I don't think you should be rotting in silver. And I mean, you talk about how like plat is the highest that you've gotten in like competitive League of Legends, but like I don't think that's even your ceiling here for Overwatch. I'm seeing some really nice stuff that I really like. It just needs to be applied in the right positions. Yeah. You go for the hero. I mean, your whole team is dead, and there's not really much for you to be able to do here. So this is a big hero play. This is a big like I can, I must, I will kind of moment, right? But like the opportunity to use your ult is the context of a fight where you don't feed and die before your team is even in their pre-set up fight condition phase part, right? You never needed to drop off the height and walk out into the open, especially after establishing an advantage, right? It's just like we were talking about here on the second point, right? If you get this damage, just use the ability. And if you get this pick, just play safe after that. See if Mercy goes for the revive. Slow down. You are in silver. And until you hit low GM, which is probably imminent, but until you hit low GM, you can play the game as slowly as you'd like, right? And just take a breath. Stop, take your time, look around, make sure you know what you are getting into, because the basis of our decision making should be information, not raw, unrefined instinct, right? We want rigidity and rigor to our disciplines, right? Like playing our walls, corners, covers, ulting when we have it. And honestly, when you're 80% to ult, when you're 80% to ult, you should be thinking, how am I going to use my ult? And every single decision that you make should be in the matrix of reasons that help you build your ult quickly from 80 to 100% and then use it quickly, right? So that you can start building it again, right? So really, if you're thinking about your ultimate and how it's coming up soon, and how the last thing that you want to do is die in a fight where like you really want to be winning and establishing more advantages, you get some really nice connections on Mercy, which, by the way, you don't ever have to walk through this door to get those connections, right? You don't have to just blindly like amble forward, right? So again, I like the fact that you do end up winning this, although maybe you shouldn't, right? But then, especially because you probably shouldn't, just slink back into the shadows, right? Because you have your ult. You have to be thinking about how you're going to use that, right? And instead, you take the long path. Do the boring stuff. Do the boring, easy stuff, which is to slink back into the shadows. Or if you're going to drop and then walk back through this door, right? But don't walk out here into the open. And especially if you do and you realize that, oh, I've made a mistake, turn around. You walk faster, moving in the direction that you're facing, as opposed to walking backwards from side to side or any direction diagonally. Your speed is variable on the basis of, am I looking in the direction that I'm moving? Okay, so yeah, we go for the hero play here, and okay, yeah, I like that. It doesn't get anything, but I like that it's a different grenade than the others that we've seen. Okay, that's the barrier. Careful, you're out in the middle of the open here. And this was after like being like fairly close to this wall. Now you're close to this wall. So if you walk back out into the open, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed. Oh, no. All right, don't worry, I'm not disappointed. I want to see you playing positions that help you land the abilities that you are trying to cast, whether it's your gun, your grenade, your pistol, or your ult. I want you in the positions that these abilities are valuable and have significant payoffs that are not full of risks, but rather the promise of excellent payoffs and returns for the fact that you are willing to just sit still and shoot targets that are all out in the middle of the open instead of walking out to the middle of the open to shoot targets that you could be shooting from literally anywhere else. Emre can play wherever he wants, and honestly, you should be opting for positions that give you map control, like positions that are near health packs, walls, corners, covers, and high ground. It's so unfortunate because I say the same thing every VOD review. It's just for like different scenarios, and I'm curious if maybe I'm missing something, right? Maybe I'm missing the fact that, oh, you're playing within Sojourn's effective range, and oh, the Mizuki spears bounce off all the walls, and oh, this Sigma wants to throw up his barrier and use his shift and his rock on you, right? But we won't be able to talk about any of that stuff until, at the very least, you put yourself on high ground and you start getting engaged into some of those counterplays, right? So we have to start with the basic stuff, right? We have a pretty solid foundational amount of time that we've played and participated in Overwatch, right? So at this point, some of these actually should be things that we understand, right? The Sojourn railgun generation, the Reinhardt barrier health, and just how overwhelmingly oppressive it is for him to just hold right click in our face. The D.Va defense matrix, right? We understand all of these, but what we fail to understand all the way up to GM, I've seen players not ulting when they have it, right? Not taking high ground positions, not playing 80% of the map instead of walking down the same 20% of the map that they always walk down, not having a decision for literally every single step that they take, right? There's a lot of negative movement that I'm seeing where, like, if you plot your points on a graph, you start out here and then you start out here and then you move out here and then you move out here. Can I ask you, according to like I'm no mathematician, right? Or geometrist, but like points on a graph, you go from 0, 0, right, to what would this be? -1, 0, right? And then you go back to 0, 0. Did you move anywhere, right? But the fight is different. The fight is different when you were here. The fight started being different when you were here, and then the fight was different when you were here. Instead of just letting the fight be different and then you change correspondent to the fight, right? If the fight is going to be different, you don't want to be the static element, right? You want to be one of the ones that is moving. And moving to the positions where your character can really get some stuff done. We aren't looking at basic hero interactions here. We really can't, because it is occluded by the fact that you should have some really nice advantages established against these opponents, but you aren't seeing those manifest because it's really unlucky. You're just not playing the positions that the character in particular is really good, which is really unfortunate because you're really good at the character, right? So this isn't a game that I actually feel like you should end up losing just on the condition that you play some of these high ground positions and aren't wandering out in the middle of the open. Careful, damage from this range isn't worth it, especially if you're not scoped in. You have to scope in to compensate for the range fall-off penalty, and then you're too far out from a corner. I mean, if you die here, it's not like the end of the world for your team, but like if you die here, what was it for? Was it for poke damage on Mizuki, right? Who just heals statically? Was it was it damage against a sig barrier that they're not going to need until they try to push past this corner anyways, right? Again, when I mention having a reason for every step, you also want a reason for like every other decision that you're making, right? And so if there isn't, if there if there is a reason here, it's probably like, okay, I want to do damage, I want to break the sig barrier, I want to pressure them from being able to move forward as easily, right? But also consider like they have high ground that they can walk up that you never use, by the way. They have health packs to play around over here and over here, right? They have abilities to use. They have the cart as natural cover, right? So instead of being committed to doing damage here, what I want you to do, what I want everyone doing, is just peeking out and taking some intel. Where is your ping on the Juno to let your team know what you're playing against, right? Where's the ping on the Juno, right? Do you know who you see, right? Do you know that you see Mizuki? Do you know that you see Onron? Do you know that you see Cass, Sigma, Juno? And does that give you information on how you're going to have to play, right? Does that help you understand that, okay, this guy's going to try to counter your ult? Does that help you understand, okay, she's going to try and close the distance, so I want my pistol for whenever she comes up close to me so that I can mitigate some of those breakpoints, right? And get away from her when I need. Maybe play close to health pack so that I can cleanse the fire, right? Do you understand that you will be ineffective not only at medium range, but also at short and long range against a character that wants nothing more than to eat all of your damage when both of us are standing just staring at each other, right, down the main angle, as if you're a tank player and he's a DPS, which he is a big DPS, right? Is this the kind of information that this kind of scouting gives you? And if it isn't, then it's really time to start integrating some of these ideas, right? It's not about being right? You don't have to know for a fact that that alt twist here is going to run up on you with all of their abilities and absolutely murk you unless you meet a certain condition. You have a lot more leeway than that. All the way up to GM, you've got a lot more leeway, right? It's just silver. I mean, holy smokes, it's literally just low masters players, right? And those guys are just as bad on their best days, right? So it's just about understanding how you want to play into some of these matchups, right? So I like going for the early damage, but like you probably don't need to, and it's definitely not worth the risk, especially if you're not at least like trading for some kind of value or acquiring some kind of information. You're walking outside of your barrier right now, and that really bugs me, right? I understand that the barrier probably isn't the best that your Domina could be deploying, but like, couldn't you be like poking out the cast, right? Could you still lob nades from behind this cover, right? Could you still see kind of past your Domina, or at least like just spam down an angle or break Sig shield, right? Why walk out into the open, right? Is there a reason for this? Is there a measured payoff for this risk? I don't know that there is. I think you're just walking forward to land damage, and that makes me very uncomfortable. I like that you right-click here. Right-clicking is very important at ranges with Emre. Helps keep them competitive. Yeah, just zoom in on that. You zoom in on that. Good. Yeah, I mean, it's a good pick. It's kind of bad the way that you have to get it. And the moving forward instead of just right-clicking, you have both your grenade charges. You have your pistol as well. So I just want to see more. Be careful about playing too samey against these guys, right? If you play the same way several consecutive fights, they're going to eventually figure out how to counter you, right? That's also why I tell people that you only have a certain amount of time to play in positions, because if you're spending 30 seconds in a position, that's 30 seconds that they have to figure out how to force you out of there, and that's almost always going to happen as well, right? Okay, lob nades here. Lob nades around the walls. Pull up pistol against her, right? So that you can heal some of that damage that you're taking. Ease up the burden on your supports. This is an engage phase, so you don't want your supports only focused on you. You want your supports to be able to focus on all of the other things that they have to do as well. Make sure that you're getting the nade bounces as well. Spend a lot more time in I would just go into Vaxta. VAXTA is the custom game code. But honestly, at the end of the day, you should also be booting up custom games and just spending time running around lobbies and figuring out like what you can and can't jump off where you can and can't bounce nades off of. If you play on any competitive teams, like for college or school or just for fun, for Face It, you have a map pool that you can just boot up those maps and take a look at. There's tons of videos on YouTube about like where you can and can't play on different characters and Mythbusters and stuff like that. Be really careful about this. I really like this, and it seems as if you had it, so you'll use it. Hold on, how long have you had this? Ooh, yeah, be careful. Be careful for like poking for picks that won't guarantee you a fight win. Like if you pick their Juno here, like cool, right? If you get a pick on their Onron, awesome. But like, does that win the fight for you? Especially when you have the actual fight winner here, which is your ult, right? So don't try to end the fight for like nothing. With nothing when you have things to actually end the fight with. If that makes sense, right? I actually really like this. I really like this ult timing, by the way. I really, really like this ult timing. What I don't like is flying out into the middle of the open. I would just stay here. I would just stay here. I think you're so punishable out here. And I think that if this is when this is a higher ranked lobby, I think that you're absolutely gonna get rolled for doing this. You land some really nice damage instances, by the way. I really like. Ooh, don't swap targets. No. Go for the right click on the Juno. Although I like that you get this pick. It's good that you start moving back towards your side of the map as well. Although not moving here is pretty bold, but it's also interesting that like you know not to move when you just want to land your shots or whatever. Or maybe you're just egoing, which is really really funny. I hate that you give up on the Juno. I don't like that you're flying just out into the open. Remember, variability. We want to keep that in our movement especially when we're in this ultimate, especially when we're playing against characters that love shooting us when we're in our ultimate. It's kind of fortuitous that this cast ends up getting booped off. But like he should have been. I mean, he should have been shooting you. I don't even know why he rolls out here, because if I hear you, I'm actually rolling out into the middle of the open so that I have like the cleanest shots against you, just so that I can two-tap you out of the air and then start moving forward with the rest of my team. So be really, really careful about just flying out into the middle of the open like this. This is still a really nice play that gets made. It's just in the context of a lobby which is a little more... a little more eager to clip you out of the skies. You'll find yourself with disadvantages imposed on you. And remember, Overwatch is just about establishing advantages and preventing disadvantages from being imposed. Which also means not taking damage that we can't justify, right? Can you really justify taking these damage instances that you're taking? I don't know that you can, especially since it's in the context of like your whole team is all taking that damage. So not only are all of you taking the same damage, and that's encumbering your supports and the amount of healing that they have to do. Now instead of doing one person's worth of walking into hyperspheres, they have to do 3 persons worth of healing who all walked into hyperspheres. But we weren't all walking into hyperspheres. They just all exploded in our face because we're all playing on top of the same position. Because we're playing on top of the same position, we don't know where we have to play that we won't stop taking damage, because all we can see is the damage that we're taking, because we don't have any information besides the stuff that we're taking the damage from, which is right in front of us, right? Because we're not on angles, we're just playing stacked up on top of the same spot. And then the other thing I was going to mention was... Oh, shoot. Hold on. I'm losing my mind. Oh, it also generates their ultimates, like, insanely fast. If I'm playing Sigma and I'm hitting one person versus if I'm playing Sigma and I'm hitting 3 people. Like, we don't have to do the math. We just know. You wait too long to whip your pistol out. Whip your pistol out a lot more often for movement, for verticality, to jump and dodge and heal. You should have exploded. You should be on high ground, by the way, just like in general this whole time. You're taking the same damage here. I'm like, is it really worth doing this poke damage for? No, as soon as the ult goes up, like, you should be jumping backwards, right? Your carry also needs a TP link and somewhere that's, like, safe to play on high ground. And it's nice to, like, not make our teams play by themselves. And so you could definitely, like, play up here with your carry, or she ends up TPing out onto the Pharah, or onto the cast. Wouldn't you also like to be up here with your team, like, fighting the 1 HP cast? Wouldn't that make the fight easy? Wouldn't that take you away from the damage, right? And isn't that also a high ground position that you could have like started in or found yourself like eventually wrapping to? You want to be thinking about where you want to be 8 seconds in advance as well. Like I said, you only have about 8 to 12 seconds that you should be like justifiably playing in any one spot. And if that's the case, then you should also be thinking about where you want to be in 8 to 12 seconds, right? Just go high. Yeah, just turn around and jump high. I generally don't hate the ability usage. It's just better on height. It's just better. You take a little less damage. You are a little less susceptible, or a little less vulnerable to the way that they want to play into you. Also looking at this from their perspective, and I mean, this is just like, Onron wants to close the distance. She's like one of those flanker characters. So don't you think that this is really nice for Onron players? Don't you think that they would look at this and kind of like drool a little bit, thinking to themselves, "Oh wow, that is a that is a medium ranged hit scan hero that is playing inside of my 8-meter effective range, right? Like, you are playing into her rules right there, right? And that brings us to, this is one of the things also that I mention every single video. At one point, I'm just gonna have like put code words or like bookmarks to like other videos or something like that. There are 3 core rule sets that we play by when I'm playing Overwatch. That is the character rule set, who am I playing, and how do they play. The compositional rule set, who am I playing my character with, right, whether characters are on my team, right, and then the hero rules, or I'm sorry, the matchup rule set, which is who am I playing against, right. And so if we're thinking about the matchup rule set there, we don't want to play against Onron in a way that she can manipulate that rule set against us, right. So we would rather keep our range, play high ground, and land our abilities from distances where she is less comfortable keeping up with that kind of pressure, either withstanding or applying that same amount of pressure onto you. Yeah, be careful. Don't stack up as much on top of your other teams, especially because it's like out in the middle of the open, on low ground, as against a barrier that like is up but is going to go down eventually, right? So you don't really want to be like planning to play around your barriers, right? That's not a good position. It's like a very temporary thing that you can do is play around these shields, right? Instead, your good positions are around walls, on high ground, away from where the rest of your team is taking damage. If we're doing this whole straight line formation where all of them are just looking, all of us on our front line is looking at all of them on their front line, right? It's just, angles are powerful, and you have like really good ones onto the Cassidy, onto the Juno, onto the Onron. You can even force them to look at you, and you can just unpeak, right? You can shoot them, jump them like you did the cast earlier. They would look at you, and all of a sudden, the rest of your team is taking a lot less damage, and you don't even have to like maintain their attention. You can just peek, do damage, force them to look, and then just unpeak, and you don't even have to take any damage, right? You can just draw attention and keep them from being able to more easily pressure you, right? Or I'm sorry, more easily pressure your team, right? And that's the contribution that you can make right there. There's about a billion other things going on that we could talk about, but oh my goodness, that's where the replay ends. I'm glad that you win this. There's definitely elements of this that I think justify you winning, but there's also a lot of things that I'm like, yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you're on top of these things, because as you climb up the ranks, then you are then you're going to find yourself confronted with opponents who really know how to play around the way that you're playing. The mechanics are fine, actually. The mechanics are fine, like all the way up until like low masters. I actually guarantee you that these mechanics are fine. You literally just need to put yourself in the positions where the mechanics are better than fine. So, LiGarald, aka Toast and Marshmallow, thank you so much for letting me take a look at this replay code. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to leave them in the. Is this the match that we looked at? Wow, yeah, this was earlier tonight. Definitely feel free to leave any comments, questions, considerations, contributions, or contentions in the comment section below, and I'll get around to it, or into the thread in which this replay code was posted. I really liked the Emre gameplay. I've really enjoyed this character as well. I think he's a lot of fun, but part of the reason that I think he's a lot of fun is because he has all of these different things that he can do, all of these abilities to do them with, and I really want to see a lot more of that from you. Outside of the fact that his gun is fun to manipulate, and if you can land your shots, which clearly you can, you actually have a really nice low TTK onto some of your targets who are really a little better equipped to duel than he is. I don't think that he's going to be the strongest hit scan in the lineup. I really don't think that he's even at that point right now. I think that he's probably one of the less competitive ones, but I think that he has a lot of options against a lot of characters. But the easiest ways to access those are, again, playing in these really important like high ground positions and making sure that we're moving really smartly. So there's a lot to like about the Emre here, and I'm really excited. It's going to be you and me competing for that spot in mid diamond here soon, and well, my aim isn't as crisp as yours, so that's probably an advantage that you'll have over me. So yeah, thank you for the replay code. Thanks for being willing to have this one aired up on YouTube. Leave any questions that you have in the comments below, and to all of those who watched, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are interested in watching similar content. But for now, it's kind of funny. I'm literally saying pretty much the same thing every VOD. So also feel free to understand that, like, if you've seen one, you've probably seen it all. In the meantime, guys, have a wonderful rest of the evening. Be good to each other, and I will see you guys again soon.